Welcome to another week of A Friendly Nudge. So this week we're going to make a lentil feta salad. I talked about trying to increase the amount of fiber that I'm getting into my diet, and one of the easy ways to do that is to add some beans. So it's like, all right, if I'm going to do it, I at least want it to, be something that I think is tasty and that, that kind of works with the way that Jude and I like to eat. So what we're doing here, this is 1 1/4 cups of French green lentils that I soak for about 4 hours. So it's quite a bit more volume now than just 1 1/4 cups. I've got a brick of feta there. You could also use goat cheese. I've got, what is that, like 5 little carrots. So, 2 or 3 big carrots works too. It's going to be about 1/2 cup of flat leaf parsley. I've got a small onion. I think that's like 3 stalks of celery. If you were using larger stalks, it'd probably be a couple. And I'm just going to cut those up real fine. And then I want to cut the carrots up pretty fine. So I'm going to slice them in half, and then we're going to trim them down. And then, we're going to saute all this stuff. So I'm just kind of getting it all prepped ahead of time, because once we start the cooking process, it all goes really quick. Just getting the outside of the onion peeled off, and then I'll just cut it in half and then slice it real thin. You could also use shallots. I was going to use a couple of shallots for this, but mine weren't in good shape, so we pivoted to a white onion. And just I just like to get these cut up real thin. You could dice it. This is just the way that this works easier for me. And then with the parsley, I just want to get it where there's not any thick stems, and I'm just going to give it a good chop. And once again, put that in a bowl, makes it kind of easy to work with. I'm going to just put the lentils in a heavy pot, and then I'm just going to cover them with just a little bit of water. So I want them completely submerged. And then we're going to put them on a simmer for about 20. You bring it to a boil and then let it simmer for 15, 20 minutes. So and then we're going to put a top on it and just leave it just a little bit ajar. And then I'm just going to put, it's probably a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in a skillet and get it hot. And then once it kind of starts to shimmer, I'm just going to add all the vegetables in, and we're going to let them sweat for about 5 or 6 minutes. So that's the celery, the onions, and the carrots, and then just add a little bit of salt to it, just a kind of a fat pinch, and then give it a good stir. And then the main thing you just want to do is we don't want to burn it. So those are going to cook down. We're going to go ahead now. The beans were done, the peas were done. So I'm rinsing those off to kind of cool them off and putting them in the bowl that we're going to build the salad in. And now I'm just taking the stuff straight out of the skillet and putting it in with the lentils. And then I'm going to put maybe that's 3 tablespoons. And then I'm going to put probably a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of sherry vinegar. Some Dijon mustard, about a tablespoon, and then give that a good stir. So we're just making a vinaigrette, basically. And then we're going to add that onto the salad, and we'll give that a good mix. And then we will be adding the parsley to that and the feta. Yep, got the parsley all added in. And then we're going to crumble the feta in there. And this just adds kind of a nice briny tartness to it. You could, like I said, you could use goat cheese as well. But I really like the kind of addition that feta brings to the party. Just getting the pieces kind of busted up. And then putting some cracked black pepper on here. And this stuff was absolutely delicious. I'm going to be, adding some version of this to the meals kind of going forward, just to where that you kind of work it in a few times during the week. It's just, it's a way that we like eating. Yep, we decided that it needed the rest of the feta in it. So, I guess over time I have kind of evolved to where mine is kind of an expansive Mediterranean diet would be. But basically, it's just eat real food. And of course, it's delicious. Have a wonderful week and play with your food.